what I'm going to try and do is just kind of like leave this as an open forum. You know, I want everybody to, I want to hear what it is that you want to hear about, and I want to give you information that you want. And just so you know, my name is Lisa DeVeau. I'm a certified professional organizer. The way you get certified is by, you have to have a certain amount of experience, a certain amount of billable hours for clients, and then you have to have continuing education, and you have to pass an exam that shows not only your ability to be able to organize, but it's your ability to transfer skills onto others, okay? So that's really the key. And in order to keep my certification, I do continuing education, like we were talking about that hoarding. I was talking that I went to a forum yesterday on hoarding, and it was an hour and a half seminar, and it was just full of information. It was great. So that counts towards my continuing education. I'm constantly educating myself. And the good news is I learn the most from all of you. You know, that's how I gain my knowledge, is because I've been doing it for 12 years. I kind of gather all that knowledge together, things that other people teach me, things that I teach myself, and then I impart that knowledge on others, you know, and in hope to help people live a, you know, a more happy life, okay? So, like I said, I've been in business for 12 years. I own Completely Organized, and I want to hear some words of what you guys think that being organized means. I want to hear some things that when you think of being organized, what is it that you think of? Can find it? Okay. Anybody else? So financial paper and able to locate it. Yep. Okay. Yes, I do. Yep. Yes, I do. And actually, we're probably not going to cover that too much in this section, but if you do look at some of those others, I'm actually doing a program that's called, it's for busy families, and it's the technology tools that are available. We're going to talk about like Google Calendar, password keepers, Evernote, you know, some of the more electronic technology tools. Today we were going to talk more about the stuff, but we can talk about paper. You'll find that the steps to organizing are all very similar. It's just we have to focus in on what it is that you want to organize, and then but all of the steps, I use a 6-step method, and it's pretty much the same. But yeah, organizing electronics is really, you know, the email and just where do you file it so you can find it on the computer type thing is very key. Anything else? What some words that you think of when you think of organizing, or something that you'd like to learn today? Everything has a place. Very good. Okay. Shredding. Keep. Get alert. Okay. Sorry, I want to write those exact words, though. Okay. When to let go. Okay. All right, and you know we're going to talk about many other things, and if you have a question, just you don't have to raise your hand. You can just ask it. So we're gonna. There's a couple of things we think about being organized. Many different things to many people. It is a skill rather than given at birth. It's something that it's a skill that I just like any other skill. If I went a runner, I would go out and I would start 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. And now, if that was my goal, okay, I will, that physical skill, now you can with your brain and with your organizing skills that are available to you. So it's a priority for you, right? If you have time, where do is labeling things take too much time? Is it worth it in the long run to label things so that you can find it later, okay? There's really two types of organization. One is the mental aspect, and the other is the physical aspect. And you'll see on the handout here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mental first, then we're going to go into the physical, and then we're going to talk about, the processes that you can really use to start your organizing, your organizing thing that if you're going to go home and you want to start, where do you start, where do you begin? If you have a choice to work on your physical or your mental organizational piece, now remember your mental is your own thinking, the way you develop things, are these pieces that you bring in, okay? Which one do you think is more important? The what? Okay. Okay, how many say mental? 1, 2, 3, 4, and I say mental too, so I count for 2. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it does. It really, when you're, the reason that the mental piece is the harder piece, the reason that the mental piece is more important, it is the harder piece to do. It's easy to go out and buy these, right? You bring them in, you go and you put them in your house and you think, well, this is going to solve my problems for me. But really, the first thing we like to look at is the mental piece of organizing. What are your habits? What do you do? What can you change? What can your family change? And how can you change it? Okay? When you're talking about families, you're talking about when there's more than one person, there is this thing called communication. Okay? That is the number one key to organization in many situations, whether it's a family or a corporation. I do a lot of workforce development. So what I'll do is they'll hire me to come in and touch on some organizational topics that they're challenged with. So I will call and I'll say, what are your challenges? Communication, email, we were talking about that. Those are some of the number one things. Do they really know what they're supposed to be working on? Same thing happens in a home. You expect your spouse or your children to put things away, but do they know where they belong? And do they know what the method is? And this is what I'm going to help you with. Okay? So you have a habit. You have a new habit that you want to develop, right? First thing is to recognize what your challenges are. What are those challenges to you? Sometimes a challenge can just be solved very simply, and we don't even realize it. Like one time we have the way when you walk into our house, it's like we have our kitchen is there. We have our household communication center over there, and they used to just have pens over there and not on our counter. And I noticed I was going over and grabbing a pen and going over and grabbing this and going over and grabbing that. And I thought, well, this is kind of silly. Here's a challenge. I'm recognizing that. I'm taking too many steps walking back over. So just keeping a small pen jar right by my refrigerator saved me a bunch of steps and a bunch of headaches. Having an extra stapler in a certain place, having extra scissors, buying more flashlights than you really need and having them in a couple of different places, things like that. Sometimes it's some very simple things that you can change that will help you with your challenge, but recognizing what the challenges are first is the most important thing. Now, how many other people are dealing with other people in the household where the challenge of organizing is just not them? Everybody? Okay, just want to make sure, because sometimes you run in a situation where it's just them or just their spouse, So recognizing those challenges and talking about the challenges. When my children and I first realize that something needs to change, if something's not working, the first thing I do is call a family meeting, okay? Because guess how you get them involved? Somebody know? Ask them, talk to them, find out what their challenges are, make them feel a part of the solution, no matter if they're just a spouse or just children or anybody else that works with you in your house. Talking to them and asking them, what do you see as the problem? When I work with a client, pretty much what I do is ask questions. I don't go in and say, you need to get rid of this, you need to get rid of this, you need to get rid of this. I look at this and say, when is the last time you picked this up? Do you love it? Does it lift your energy? How many times have you touched it? We'll do things like I'll pack a box away and they'll say, oh, well, that's all stuff I really need. All set? Oh, that would be great. Thank you, Andrew. How many times have you touched it? When was the last time you used it? We'll do a box and I'll put the date on it that we packed the box away, so that when they go back to it, they realize, oh, I really haven't touched that stuff in a year. So more of a reality check on that. So, communicating things. Choose change. Okay, that's important. You have to want to change. You can say, oh, I want to simplify, but then if you keep getting the catalogs and you keep ordering from catalogs, or you keep going online and ordering more, guess what the number one rule to is simplifying. Not buying, not bringing more stuff into your house. So if you come to me and you say, oh, I want to simplify, I'm going to say to you, I want you to look at, when you walk through that threshold in the door, I want you to think about everything you're bringing into that house that is new information, new things. So for some clients that works. It's all about figuring out what works for you. So I had this one client, and he's like, God, you told me that, and I think about it now. I'll walk in with a shopping bag full of things from like the dollar store, and it makes him think a little bit more, like, do I really need this stuff? If my goal is to simplify, do I need to purchase more? And the answer is usually no. It means you need to let things go. So if I come to you and I start asking you questions and you say you want to simplify, those are some of the things that we'll look at first. Do your actions match your words? All right? Documenting your choice to change. Okay? Writing it down somewhere. I'm going to show you some examples of this. This is, what I have here for you is just some visuals that's going to help you come up with different ways. This is my mirror in my bathroom. As I think I'm a visual person. 85% of people are visual. I keep a Sharpie right by my mirror, and I write things on it. Sometimes it's a positive affirmation. Like one time, I was so far behind in laundry, and I was just like, oh, I hate laundry. Oh, I hate laundry. Oh, I hate laundry. So I wrote on my mirror, I love my family, therefore I love my laundry. So, and it just is like a little bit more inspiring than walking around saying, I hate laundry, I hate laundry, I hate laundry. So, using the tools that are available to you right there, an expo marker right by my mirror, and I'll just, because once I see it written, then I'll remember when I go downstairs to write down that I need eggs. Typically, I had somebody else write this, like toothpaste will be on there, soap will be on there. The things I think of when I get out of the shower and, I need conditioner. Where do you write it? You're dripping wet. My mirror's right in front of me. So these are some things that you can do to change your habits. Using a timer. Yeah, go ahead.
I read that on your website. I think Friday.
Yeah.
Does it come off easily?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it does. And actually, I was wondering, they have those. What's that?
It makes your boss clean the mirror.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you have to clean it before you start writing and after, so it's a double duty clean. I have some expo markers. Actually, I'm not sure I have them with me, but they have like the cap right on top that has the eraser thing. So you just turn it around and erase it. It does come off. Yeah. No. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah, to answer that question, what happens is that I look at things like my mirror and things like a grocery list is two different things. You either have a transfer station or you have a home, okay? This mirror for me is my transfer station. It's my memory just to remember to write it on the list, my grocery list, my actual grocery list. But by the time I get downstairs, I'm going to forget. So that for me is just my transfer station until I go down and write it on my real grocery list, right? Does that make sense? Things like, so that's why you end up with so many lists, is because if you might make different lists, but you have to decide on what kind of lists you want, and how many you want, and then make sure you're always transferring and going back to that same. Everybody's different. I don't want to say there is a right or wrong way to do it. I make a new list, and I do my to-do list probably a little bit different than most people do. And I'm going to write that down so that maybe we can go into it a little bit if people want me to. But yeah, that's having a system in place. Like, how do I want to create my list? Do I want to make a to-call list, a today list, a tomorrow list, and a someday list? And then you kind of keep it to those categories. You're also going to have other lists. Like if you have a project going on, you're going to have a project list. If you're remodeling the bathroom, you're going to have different steps that are needed for those projects. But for the most part, just having set lists. Something like this works. This is something that I did for fun. Because I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. Like I said, I'm a visual person. I just bought one of these from, it's a poster frame for like $3 at Walmart. And then I took some really cool duct tape. These are some examples. I took the frame off because they never stay. And then I just duct taped the edge. And then this is like a board that this is my, I need a light for my Camry. My daughter needs an ankle brace, and 8.5 by 14 colored paper. I just kind of wrote this down. Now I can just take this with me downstairs if I want because it's lightweight. Sometimes you'll see me getting in the car with these things. So I'll be like, oh, I didn't have time. I'm just going to take it with me. I walk in. This is my focus one because it's green. So, well, you can see how there's a little bit of residue there? It's not like perfect, but it's a $3 board. If I have to replace it in a little while. Yep, it's the plastic frame. Yep, and I even have a bigger one. I don't think I brought it in. Oh, graph paper, just like a big 3.5, the poster board paper, white board paper. So it just kind of. Oh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Not Spencer's, right? No, because they have all those neon-y type things. Brookstone. I'm like, Eileen, you must know this. She's a Destiny person. So I'll just use these little command hooks, and that's what I put right there, and I'll just stick my expo marker right in it. You probably can't see that, but it's just a little command hook. My husband and I are out shopping, and I'm like, I gotta find something to stick my pen on. So then I just put the pen right there, and so it's always there. If I want to leave notes for my kids, I'll do that. I also do. This is another thing that. Now this is just a signboard, just like you see over there. Those plastic signboards with the backing, and I'll just use sticky notes and put it on the board. So, for instance, here, this is just literally that is probably this with a white piece of paper behind it. And I'll put sticky notes. So sometimes for my kids, like I have 2 daughters at home right now, Aubrey, and I'd have another one that said Alexis. And if I wanted them to do something, I would just put the sticky notes on that. And then when they got home, they would be like, oh, that's what I need to do. And they would just hop right to it. They'd jump right on it, and it would be all done by the time I got home from work. Not. But at least I could say, hey, did you look at the list? When they say, can I go to so-and-so's house? I'll say, what's on your board? Yeah, this is more of a focus board, because what happens is that a lot of times the thing that causes us to not be organized is the fact that we don't focus on one thing at a time anymore, okay? So that's why these type things for me are really important. Right in front of my face when I was preparing this program, I wrote down all of my ideas just on this big board, and so while I was preparing the program, I could just look up. So it's in this situation, here's what it's doing is it's telling you what to focus on next. You could have just one piece of paper up there if you wanted to. In terms of writing like regular to-dos and stuff, again, keeping them on a list, but then this would be what you'd choose to focus on for the next hour, for the next 20 minutes. Taking that timer that I had as an example and setting the timer and then saying, the next 20 minutes, I'm going to work on this, okay? Timers are a great way to kind of keep you on track. If you say, oh, this should only take me 20 minutes, a lot of times I'll time myself to see how long it took me. A client and I were working, and he was bringing some stuff up to the attic. That's what he wanted to do, was bring up those Christmas decorations, actually, even though it's March. But we're going to bring stuff up to the attic. So I looked at the time when we started, and then I looked at the time when we were done, and that stuff had been sitting there for a couple of months. It took us 20 minutes to get it up to the attic. Wow. So when you look at how much time things really take you and how you put that off, and the benefit of doing it right away. So sometimes time yourself is a way to get you to start a new habit. Okay. This one is just at Wegmans, I think. Taylor, it's a Taylor digital timer, but they have them. If you guys, welcome to. I don't know if you guys want to see this stuff or. I don't know. So that's one thing. So choosing change, we were talking about. That's how you choose change, by implementing different things. Documenting your choice, writing down what your affirmations are, writing down what your new habits are. It takes 21 days to develop a new habit, okay? So if you want to change something, in your household, what I would usually do is I would tell my children, I would say, well, can we just try it for 21 days? And they'll be like, okay, 21 days, And my husband one time wanted to change where the trash was. We shared an office, and he wanted to change where the trash was. And I'm like, oh, I don't like it there. And he goes, oh, just try it for 21 days. I'm like, darn you. So the idea here is, try it for 21 days. It's kind of like a temporary thing where nobody has to commit to it for a long time, and then you can determine if it's something that works for you. Okay. And sometimes you'll see those kids just like marking off the days until the 21 days are up, because they just don't like whatever the change was. Practicing what your new habit is, okay? That's the 21 days. You have to practice it over the 21 days. Here's an example of something that I'm trying new. I always forget to do my evening ritual, okay? So I made this new tray for myself. This is called every evening, every evening, every evening. So that's like a tray that my kids made when they were like really tiny, and I just I used this duct tape on some sticky notes so it didn't stick to it, and then I just put every evening, because my hands are always dry, my lips are always dry, my feet are always dry, and if I don't take my medication, I am nasty. So those things really help. But I literally did that in 2 seconds. I was like, oh, I need to get better about doing my evening ritual. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's setting up the habit. It's setting up some type of a ritual like that is right by my bed. And like I said, I just tried this. I'm going to do it for 21 days and see if it works. It's again just trying something new, but then trying it consistently. A lot of times we'll try something, and then if it doesn't work right away, we say, oh, that didn't work. But temporary failure does not constitute permanent failure. Okay? You may not make it right away, but you got to keep going. Okay? So practicing, so these are just some, I just took a couple of pictures of that. Practicing what you need to do. So, does anybody have any questions about the habits? And again, we'll be talking about that as we go along. But is there any question about developing a habit? Anything that I can help you with? Labeling is huge when it comes to developing new habits. Let's see if I have. There is one of the things I noticed when I was labeling food. Okay. I label things in my fridge with a Sharpie, because as you can see, we have several Philadelphia containers. Which one is open? You know, after picking up that one that wasn't open several times and going, I know there's one already open because I opened it yesterday, I literally just leave Sharpies laying everywhere and up high if you have younger children, but I'll just write the word opened on it to make it easier, you know, to know. I have this oil of Olay, like a little travel one that I bring with me. And those ones are expensive when you buy them, but then you buy the other bigger bottle and it's less expensive. So I keep that travel one on it and I write refill so that I don't just throw it away when it's empty. So remember that my habit is to refill it. Okay? So writing these new habits down so that you remember what they are, and that's one of them. Yes. Yep. That's good. That's a good idea. Absolutely. Because sometimes those dates, especially the expiration dates, are so hard to see. So small.
But, you know, once you open it, you have to use it within a certain time.
With it, yep. Right, once you open it. That's a good point. You know, and those are things that I don't think of, because in my house, this stuff is gone like that. Anything in my house is gone like that. So that's a very good idea, though, writing the date on it when you do open it so that you know. A lot of times when you're talking about, like, paperwork and stuff, when did you get the paperwork? Write the date on it. Write the date that if you wrote yourself a to-do note, like, oh, I need to do this, and you write the date on it so that when you go back to it, you can have a reality check and say, oh, you know, this is how long I've been holding on to this piece of paper and I still haven't acted on it, okay? So that... Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the physical, but we'll also be going back to the mental because it is so important as we do the physical. There's a saying by Mark Twain, which I shared with you. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it is, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable ones and starting on the first one. Okay? That is ultra, ultra, ultra important when you're doing paperwork. That idea of breaking your overwhelming task into small, manageable tasks is really a great way to go. And you're going to see that in any type of organizing job that you do. And it was interesting, we were talking to this, when I was listening to the program that I went to on hoarding, and she was like, well, you know, where do you start? And these are the questions that they have. You know, when you start working with somebody, it's like, where do you start? It's usually the first question. So I actually have a 6-step method I use for that, but go ahead. Oh, it's almost always related. I mean, usually what I try and do is I talk to my client first and make suggestions based on their behavior. You know, I mean, because you see certain... You know, like when you walk into a house and they've started to pile stuff like in the doorways, not really, you know, the room is kind of full, but then they start piling it in the doorways. Those are, you know, usually signs that they need to, you know, get a little bit more help than just the physical me going in. A lot of what I do crosses over. It's like a social services thing. So I have to be very careful not to be giving mental health advice, but I can give advice on how to manage. You know, I can give advice on how to manage the physical piece of it and how to manage themselves and their new habits. But yeah, a lot of times I do make recommendations, and, you know, we do a lot of work together. It's a lot of soul searching, a lot of, you know, digging down and in figuring out, you know, everybody has something, right? Yes. very popular. You heard that all hoarders? Yeah. Right. But all hoarders have ADD. I haven't heard that. They're the opposite. Neat. Like, yeah, that's, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an OCD tendency, an obsessive compulsive disorder, tendency. A lot of that is driven, with the hoarders and stuff, but yeah. So, okay, let's just, no, it's not funny at all, but I mean, it is a very good question, and it's, what happens is not necessarily. It may have started that way. So what happens is, it's just picture, I walk into a house and this is the doorway to a bedroom or to their spare room, and they've actually started piling clothes in. Right. You would have to kind of, hurdle the clothes to get over to the other room. I mean, it's not. It's hard not to laugh. I would never laugh, because it's just, there's something going on there in their mind. There's a reason it does it. So it's about, like, what can we do? How can I help? Can we take? And it's about changing habits. It's about. No, not that. Not the. Well, yeah. I mean, in some cases, there's levels. There's levels of hoarding. There actually is like a scale. No, sometimes there's pathways. Yeah, sometimes there's pathways. Yeah, it just depends. But that stuff energizes me, and that's what makes me different, I think. Because I look at that and I say, oh, yeah. It's not that. It's just that it's not, for me, it's not the challenge. It's like, I can help. I can help this person that has suffered. Do you know? So it's more like I'm there for them. We're a team. We work together. It's more of that type of a thing. So, yeah. And then I get people that call me and say, oh, my gosh, my boyfriend says I'm a hoarder. And I go to their house and I'm like, you're okay. Don't worry. You're not there. I'll talk to your boyfriend. So, yeah. So the whole idea there is, breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable ones. And what I want to do is show you a little bit about how that is done. I know there's a lot of interest in paperwork, so I'm going to show you some examples of how to sort your paperwork. Oh, shucks. I just signed out of Dropbox. Do you guys know about Dropbox? Dropbox? Has anybody ever heard of it? No. It's an online, oh, look, it's right there. It's an online, okay, you guys are talking about, how you were saying about how do you organize your physical files, your electronic files? Like, my whole world and my business world fits into one of four categories. They're clients, opportunities, teams that I work with, and my operations. Okay, so this is from a business standpoint. You could have the same thing, only at a personal standpoint, but you take your world and you divide it into four different situations, okay? And what it is like a hierarchy way of thinking, okay? When you're talking about a personal situation, your very first folder, your very first category, and that's all it is a category. Here we're looking at it as a folder, but think of it as like a big content. The very first thing is like your family. Okay, they are the number one important thing, obviously, to your family. Your family filing is you, the people that are in your family. Number two is financial. Okay, without the money, you can't support your family, but you can have your family without the money. You see what I mean? So it's always the next level. And then from there, and what ends up happening is you kind of make your own categories as you think of them, but typically one would be family, two would be financial, three would be what we call like vacationing, recreational, spiritual, things like that, like things that are important to, the financial, but then also important to the family because you're going up the levels. And then the last thing is what we call like peripherals, which is all of those little things that come and happen in, reorganization or little things that kind of come in, because running a household is very much like running a business. There's not a whole lot of difference, and a lot of people do not give themselves enough credit for the fact that, There's a lot to running a household. And so, dividing it into those 4 categories helps you when you start making your to-do list, because if you're going to write a to-do list and you say, well, I've got to call the doctor. Call the doctor seems like just not a big deal, but if it's for a family member, it's a really big deal, because that family member is suffering until you make that phone call. So that type of this is how I make my list, is in these 4 categories. The 5th one, including personal, but that's a little bit separate for me. So that's how I categorize everything. I'll have these boards out. There'll be 4 boards: clients, opportunities, teams, and operations. And you could do the same thing for your family. But just keeping to 4 categories really helps you determine what your next priority is. Okay. In filing systems, we try and do the same thing. If I create my filing system, I'll try and keep it to like 4 categories, and that's it. Okay. Typical categories might be like current files, which are the things you're getting to all the time and need to be really close by. Okay. Financial, medical, and those sometimes can go together. There's archive filing, which is the things that you need to keep that you really don't have to get rid of. There is a personal document retention. I'm trying to think. I want to make sure it's there, but there's a personal document retention form that I have, and it's on my website under the resources. Okay, that talks about how long you need to keep things and for how, what you need to keep and for how long. There's very little you need to keep anymore. That's really, the truth is so much is available electronically. So what happens is it ends up being a personal choice. Are you comfortable letting go of that piece of paper? Then you always remember I said I always ask questions. You ask yourself, can you find it someplace else? Yep. There's a 7-year thing, but 7 years is for taxes, okay? But the only thing that you have to keep for 7 years for the IRS or New State is any backup documentation that supports your tax return. Okay? So if you made a claim for Niagara Mohawk, say in home office, or you were claiming for that, because you have a business, you have to keep your Niagara Mohawk bills. Okay? Most people there's no need to keep your Niagara Mohawk bills. Okay? If you see a need or you something specific that you want to keep them for, then keep them. I'm not saying throw them out. I'm saying that other than a personal need, Niagara Mohawk's never going to come back and say, where are the bills? You keep that. No. Well, you're talking about the actual payments for the home equity loan. Yeah, no, those are just documentations as long as you have them. But you do need to keep your information. The 1099 you receive at the end of the year, or I don't know if it's 5498, or I used to work in accounting firms. So all those different types of 1099s you get, or those you have to keep because it supports the tax return. But like say your pay stub, for instance, you rip out part of your pay stub. At the end of the year, you get your W-2, and as long as the numbers match, pay stubs can go away because they don't support anything. Your W-2 supports tax return. That's what you should probably keep for 7 years. That's a good example. Yeah. If you still own the property, then keep it. But if you don't own the property, then you can let go of it. Yeah. No, but you might want to keep like the initial information, that where you process that home equity loan, but then also that you at the end that you kept, that it's paid off. And medical is 5 years. Yeah, it used to be 3, and it's 5 years, which is the same with bank statements now. Because of the Medicare laws, they changed them, so it's 5 years. Bank statements also, if it has to do with, like if you're at that age where you're getting close to Medicaid, is it Medicare? No, it's Medicare. Yeah. Okay, if you're close to that age, or you can tell I'm not close to that age. Not too far, but not you should keep getting close to 5 years. And another thing that, here's an example of something that flabbergasted me, but I was talking to somebody one time, and you know how the bank statements, they'll print out your bank statement and they'll say page 1 of 5, and that 5th page is blank, and you think you can throw it out? You can't. Because sometimes the banks will want to see the full statement, whether or not they don't believe you that page was blank. And so I know, that's what I said. And I had been doing this for 10 years at the time when somebody told me that, but the bank wanted him to go back and pull out, he had to have all sequential pages in his. Well, it depends on, checking, savings. It depends on what you have, because what Medicare wants to look at is that you're not getting rid of any assets prior to going on to Medicare. There's a lot of things that people are looking for. Now, here's the one thing that goes against the 7 years. The IRS can look back at your entire lifetime if they suspect you of fraud. Okay? But once they've looked at it all, they can't go back and re-look at it. So if you've been audited, you can chuck all that stuff. That's the good news. Well, that's the only good news about auditing, but other than that. Well, if you suspect yourself of fraud, I wouldn't throw anything out. Or if you suspect your husband of fraud or something that you're not really sure is, and again, that's why I go in and I never tell people to throw stuff out. I ask questions. I will give them the information that they need to allow them and then help them move forward with their decision. But I won't go in and say, oh, yeah, you can throw everything out, because if they had suspected their husband of fraud 3 years ago and now they're divorced, I can't tell them to throw that stuff out. They have to be very careful. There's 2 things that people need to steal your identity: birth date and your address. And that's it. That's it. Well, I think that's an obvious one. That one, anything with Social Security number, you should always, always, always shred. And don't think that ripping up is enough. You really should have a shredder and cross-cut. And, and I always tell people it just depends on what you're worth. Nobody's going to come after me. But if you're worth something, you want to be really careful, because those are the people, but I still shred everything. So anything. And then if you're looking at old documentation, you got to be really careful, because they used to use your Social Security number on almost everything, health records, and like if you have an employee application that you filled out, your Social Security number is probably on it. So a lot of times people, oh yeah, we can just check. And I'm like, well, let's just look through this quickly, and sure enough, there's a Social Security number somewhere. So you want to be really careful. So when you ask what you should shred, that's it. You don't have to shred Niagara Mohawk bills. You don't have to shred unless somebody wants to pay your NIMO bill. Well, it's National Grid now, but if somebody wants to pay your bill, there's no reason, because there's no avenue for them to get cash from you. Nope, they don't have any of the other things, but they have the address. But they would have to have your address and also your birth date. So things like Facebook, they say put your wrong birth date on there, wrong birth year. If you put it on at all, just put a different one on. Your pay stubs can go. After your W-2 comes in. Once your W-2 comes in, that's your record of your pay. You have to verify you should verify you might want to keep your last pay stub if there's information on it for some reason that is not on your W-2, which I guess can really happen if you do like employee reimbursements or something. You may, if you have something funky, then keep your last one, but other than your last one, none of the others are needed. But there's always that one situation, that people think, oh, this could happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's my question: is when is the last time you looked at those? Right. Right. So I'm sorry. I'm just going to ask you again. When is the last time you looked at those? Uh-huh. Okay. So that's good. Perfect. So by the end of the year, do you think that those timesheets maybe could go? Okay. So that's where you kind of figure it out. It's like, when did you go back and look at it last? And then you have to ask yourself, working for an accounting firm, we did a lot of that, like time and bill. They have all those copies, so it's the relationship then you have with the employer. Can you count on it? It's the same thing with like insurance documentation. He's like, can you count on your insurance guy to be there? Because he has a copy of all of it. Same thing with your attorney. Where do you keep wills? Well, if your attorney has one, do you need to keep it in the safe at home? And those are all personal choices, and I just help you determine what makes you feel comfortable. So in your case with the timesheets, I would keep last year's in the current years, and I probably wouldn't keep anything more. And that might be a comfort level enough for you, or even 3 years, but top it off at 3. But document that choice. The folders, what I do is right on the outside of a folder, when I'm creating a filing system, I'll write right on the outside of a folder, keep for 3 years. I don't have to keep remembering what my decision is. It says it right there. My decision is to keep these for 3 years. And you might want to write what the years are on the file folder, but not on the hanging file, because then you have to keep changing those darn tabs. Keep that. You could your hanging file, the tab can say paycheck stubs, but then inside your interior file can say 2012, 2013, and that gets pulled out and a new one gets pulled in. But keep your hanging tabs very general so that you can keep reusing them. Like if your mortgage is with, like for instance, my Alliance just changed to NBT, but I don't have Alliance. I have it mortgage, and then my mortgage stuff goes in there. So, but that's how I choose to do it. Some people don't want to do it that way, and that's fine too. But that just helps you from having to remake tabs. I'm always looking to save time, if you can tell. How many steps can I save? Yes. Yes.
What's your opinion on, every now and then you'll have a company that does shredding, like bank,
Yep.
come in, let you drop stuff off,
Yep.
and they'll take it for free.
Mhm.
Do you feel that's pretty trustworthy?
Absolutely. Yeah, those companies are. There is certifications and stuff that they have to go through. I know ProShred is on. What's the name of that road? It's behind the dining furniture place. What is it? Yeah, it's like right around Bridge Street there. There's, behind Pier 1 there's a place called ProShred, and you can drop off a bag whenever you want. It's not, the building isn't actually labeled, which is what the difficult part is. It's a square white building. But I bring stuff over there, and I'll just bring a bag of shredding, and they they wheel it out, and I drop it in there, and then they lock it, and they bring it back into their office, and then when the truck comes back, they shred it. I'm very comfortable with that. I've been using them for years. There's a lot of, I haven't heard of any shredding companies that, other than problems like corporate-wise, like deliveries and stuff, but, no problems in terms of confidentiality or anything. But yeah, I do trust those. In your bank will also, a lot of times your bank will shred for you if you bring it into them, but it's like $5 a bag at ProShred. So I bring a bag whenever I'm going out that way. Because shredders, they break all the time. Does anybody have that issue? It's like you buy a shredder. Oh, I must shred a lot then, because it's like I seem to, anytime you have a piece of equipment that has a lot of moving parts, they tend to break more. Like printers break more than, some computers, and so I like to bring stuff to ProShred. Yes. Oh. What is address? Thank you. Oh, that's Towpath. I kept thinking Town Mode. It's 6519 Towpath Road. Hey, darling. This is Eileen. She's my biggest cheerleader. We call her. So 6519 Towpath. So they're pretty easy. Just drop by and you can drop off a box. Another question. I know I was on the topic of filing, so I'm going to talk about how sorting your filing, sorting your paperwork. We're going to go with that. Oops. Oh, here, I'm going to show you this picture. My poor friend here. He's going to love me for this. Lisa, this is John. I walked into my friend's house. He works for my husband. And this is his toiletry bag. And I'm like, that's really interesting. I'm like, can I take a picture of it? He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Okay, I got to show you it a little closer. I'm looking at it, and I'm going, well, you have a weird, do you see the nails? This is like nails that go into like a nail gun, like, and I'm like, okay, it's this toiletry thing that he takes to the shower with. He's like, well, they were in my pocket, and I threw them in there. There's the nails. There's like a fork, like the rollers. There was even a pack of cigarettes, and it's not even the kind he smokes. There is like a screwdriver. I'm like, this. I mean, it just was a sign of what organization is not. And it's not to make fun of him, but organization is about keeping like things together. This is not organized. It's small. He can find what he wants. It's not a big deal. He was emptying his pockets, exactly. So in a word, he really needed to empty his pockets into another container and have his toiletry bag go with him. But it was just sitting out there, and I walked by him, and I'm like, I got to take a picture of this. But yeah, so it just was funny, the random things I saw in there. And a fork, I'm like, really, John, a fork? Yeah. I know, right? Oh, I'm just going to go through this because I want to go to the, did I do this? Oh, I didn't do the paper. Hang on one second. Yeah, right. Labeling, containers, sorting. Wasn't in there. It's funny. It's one thing I didn't put in here is paper because I didn't think we were going to talk about it today. Hang on. Backwards. There. See if I can find something here that'll. I'm hoping this will give me some paper everywhere. I don't know if that'll come up though. Hang on one second. There's the shop. These are all my photos here. Oh, here's an example of something that somebody was talking about. This is something I call a phone minder. It's a way of documenting phone calls, incoming and outgoing. And I think you were talking about that, how what I do is I keep, remember you're talking about lists, like what kind of lists do you keep, and what, this is what I call like a phone journal that I use, okay? When somebody calls me or leaves me a message, I write it down in one place, and this is my place, okay? Now, this is a transfer station, okay? If anybody wasn't here when we first talked about that, is that we have things that we call homes, and then we have transfer stations. This is a transfer station because it's just for me to write the information down, but then at the end of the day, any follow-up activity that is still remaining here, I need to record on my to-do list, okay? So this is a way of just documenting phone calls because I get a lot of them. People calling and different things going on. Like every time my daughter calls and says, oh, can you pick me up at 3:30? I might not run it down. But anything important that I need to remember, promises I made, promises or others made to me, that's where that goes. And then it gets transferred to my to-do list. So, and actually, this was the very first product that I ever developed, and it's called the Executive Phone Minder. And the reason I developed it It's because, once again, I got sick of doing the same thing over and over again. Left message, or and then I'm like, did I leave a message? Or did they leave a message? And I can't remember. So I have little boxes here that says left message, incoming, and then message. So it's like if they called you and left a message, check mark incoming. If you check message, and then they called you and left a message. You think call them and leave a message, you check mark out. Has it on it. That's these columns are. Yeah, and so what the columns are. If you just make a call and actually pick up the phone, which is an anomaly, and then you can just check phone, mark outgoing, and then just start writing what the conversation about. To kind of go back. Now, me again, the fact that I wrote it down, and I can visually remember to do it anyways. So remember that stuff, but I had. If I make promises, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's that going to do? Or if I put this wrong, and the client says, oh no, I go back, and that's my visual. Oh, I did write it down. It was Thursday. My calendar wrong, just like anybody else. That was a couple of times. Okay. So paperwork. Here's what I'm going to show you about paperwork. So this colored paper is the best way to sort paperwork, okay? Do you know how when you're sorting paperwork and you create these piles, right? And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the company's coming. And you take the piles and you crisscross the piles, right? And then you go back to the piles and you're like, oh, they're all a mess and I don't remember what they were and what categories they were and all of that. What I do is when I sort paperwork, I use colored paper because you can see it better. And I will write down what the category is that I'm sorting into, right? And then the paper goes on top of it, but not to cover the label. Whoops, yeah, I did pick it all up. Not to cover the label. So this say mental organizing or just organizing tips. Here's the key. There's two types of sorting that you're going to do, and it doesn't matter whether it's paperwork or not. The first thing you're going to do when you sort anything is you sort into what we call macro zones. Okay? The macro zones are the broader categories that you're sorting into. You don't want to sort this and say mortgage, and then this over here to say insurance, and then this here to say like bathroom remodeling. Okay? You want this to say home remodeling done. You want this to say like financial paperwork, and put all your financial stuff in one pile. Okay? Then what you do is you go back to each pile. You'll pick up this financial pile, which may be this big now, because if you've had a stack. Then you take that financial pile and you sort it into micro categories. Okay? That's where you can be a little bit more specific about how it is that you want to look for things. Okay? When you're filing paperwork, you always want to think, what am I going to need it for? Filing is about accessing what you filed, not about where you put it. It's never about where you put it. It's about why are you going to look for this piece of paper? What are you keeping it for? Why do you feel that you need it? Okay? You could have your Niagara Mohawk bills or your National Grid bills, but they could go under business expense. Most people would put them under home bill payment. But if you own a business in your home, you're going to want them under business expense. So there's like different categories for different people depending on what it is that you're doing. Okay? And sometimes, like you'll have, I'll have one pile that'll just be like all my current filing. It'd be like my one daughter plays a couple of different sports. My other daughter is in, whatever, piano, singing. All of that goes in current filing because I'm always accessing those files, and they stay right on my desktop, right in my household communication center, so that they're available to everybody. So that's my own word, current files, and that's where I put them, and then so they would all go in one pile, and then I would micro-organize them down. Does that make sense? You do the same thing really when you do any type of sorting. is the you do into the macro categories and then into micro. Here's an example of like, this is what I call a delegation. These are like people in the office. This is not my office. It was somebody else's office. They're people files, okay? And I keep these in my family too. I have what we call people files. Each file represents somebody different that I either need to keep the information for, I want to talk to them about, and I'll drop it in that file, and then I grab it all at once and talk to them about, what the situation is. I do that with my husband. I call them bunches. I have a bunches file. And I throw it in there, and then, on like Friday nights, we'll talk, or once I have a pile, I'll say, what, I need 20 minutes of your time, rather than, trying to grab them 5 minutes at a time, because it doesn't always work. Yeah. So personal choice. Yeah. It's really personal choice. The reason that this is in that plastic container is because I was accessing it all the time. Or it was for the client. He was accessing it all the time. He literally was just like, turn around. Oh, that goes to Lori. Oh, that goes to Lisa. Oh, that goes to Cindy. So what happens is it's based on use. If it, like I was saying with my current filing, I keep that right out because I'm always in it. My financial filing goes in a drawer because, when I pay the bills, I go and I do the filing once a week, every 2 weeks. So it's kind of based on use. It's kind of on personal choice, what you want to deal with and what you don't. No, not that thing. I do, yeah, actually. I'm not adverse to plastic at all. It's right in my home. And everything's different. Like I have these, everything's different. Like I used to keep my sheets in these, different sizes. I have like king, queen. I've got like 7 beds in my house with a lot of kids. So I'd be like king, queen, Aubrey's room, Alexis's room, and different ones, because this has a thing from the label, so I would do that. And then I started keeping them in a plastic container with a top so that they didn't get dusty, because I kind of changed my mind. And then because I decided to start storing them in a different room, so I was like, I'm going to change it, but the method is still the same. No matter what the container you choose, the method is still the same as what's your new habit, what's your, mental piece of it, and then, that's when you start the sorting part of it, the zoning, like things together, whether it's paperwork or this type stuff. And then once you've sorted it all, then you choose your containers. Then you can say, I only need a container this size, and I have a lot of vertical space, so I can stack these, have the, I don't know if you've ever seen them. I think this is an iris. There's this. No, this is an iris, but in Staples, anywhere they have these, you can stack them on top of each other. Now, again, do you want to reach in there? Do you want to grab it? I mean, you have these type of containers here. Again, I used to keep rubber stamps in these containers, and now I don't stamp anymore. But, these will store on top of each other. But then you can't have anything that goes beyond this height, so you got to be careful. But that's why we sort first and containerize later, because once you have your sorted piles, you get a better idea of what it is that you need, okay? Yeah. Yeah. There's 100 recipes. Right. So, one of the things that you can do is that if you keep recipes, it depends on how many you rip out. One thing you could do is keep recipes in like a folder and do it by year. And say recipes that you collected in 2012. Right on the outside of that folder, if I haven't touched in a year, throw out. I mean, that could be your mate. I literally will write that across a file folder. If I haven't touched in a year, throw out. Whatever your decision is. So, and that you're keeping a lot of something, kind of breaking it down a little bit more, so that you can be better at the maintenance piece of it, okay, which is going through and deciding what do you really need to keep. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so now here would be the question I would ask is how many times did you have to touch that sweater to get to something else that you really liked? And you don't have to answer that question. It's kind of a rhetorical question because people keep things because they think, I could still use that. But when you keep too many things like that and you actually have to move those things to get to the things that you really like, then that's when you think I might be keeping too much. And did I really need to touch that sweater 20 times to be happy with it for the one day I did decide to wear it? But that's what I call giving things the reality look. Do you really look at it? What I do with my closet is this falls into that 80-20 rule. Paperwork is the same way. 20% of what you have, you will use 80% of the time. Okay? You go to my closet, you have that center portion, and then you have all the other stuff that you don't really wear, but then you have the center stuff that you wear over and over and over again. It's like how many times you have to move that other stuff to get to what you really want. Now, I don't have a lot of clothes, so it's not too hard for me, but I know people that have a ton of clothes. It's like they end up having to move stuff around. And if that, I have one client that changes every year. I go and we change out her winter stuff and bring up her summer stuff, but that makes her happy. She likes it. She likes to dress nice. She likes to. So that's fine. It's not for me to tell her that she's making the wrong choice, but there might be other things that I'll say, we can let go of some of these socks, and she'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. And we just find random socks all over her house. It's so much fun. I'm like, oh look, I found a sock. Literally random, just anywhere. It is so much fun. I'm thinking about switching them out now. I'm reorganizing my closet. My mom told me, she's like, you got to switch out your... I'm like, I don't want to, though. I don't have that many clothes. I literally have, clothes that I really just don't have that many clothes. I just kind of wear the same thing over and over. So when you see me next time, if I'm wearing this, just don't say anything. Oh, you really don't have many clothes, do you, Lisa? You never can be sure. Yeah, go ahead. No. I do get into that, but that's not... they can. It's not like they don't, but I find that sometimes people that have the ability to purchase, and, sometimes they purchase to the point of hurting themselves, and then sometimes they purchase so much that they do have financial trouble. So, I do see both types, but it isn't like what you were saying. That was the first time I had heard that anybody that's a hoarder has ADD. But, it's not like anybody that accumulates too much has too much wealth or, vice versa. But that's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, that's, and that's the thing. It's like... Yeah. No.
But for me, it was days all So now if I do it, I think the rest of it. But in my house, in the garage, I've got always
Yeah, and that's usually it's something that you are. It's usually for the greater good that people are holding on to things. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, and they've already purchased it. Yes, because the other thing is that. Yeah. Well, she brings up a good point because the reason that she can see that is because once you start organizing things, the key to organization is storing like things together. That's what it is. And I was happy to hear that nobody used the word neat. When I first asked you, give me words that you think of with organizing, there's usually one person that says, oh, it's about being neat. Nothing to do with it. It's a benefit. it's a benefit that you get from organizing, neatness, and the feeling of being neat, But neatness, I mean, I could walk into somebody's office and it could look like this, and I would absolutely never think that they were disorganized. I wouldn't judge them because they might know exactly where everything is. It's not for me to decide. It's for them to come to me and say, I'm not feeling so good about myself. I can't find the things I need. I know I'm embarrassed most time to walk into my children's, like their friends' homes and stuff, because I don't want them to think I'm like looking at their stuff. I'm like, I'll just stand here in the doorway. That's okay. And they're making it, I just went to the grocery store. And I'm like, you have no idea what my house looks like, because it's not about neatness. We live in our house. We have a family. I don't want it to be, better homes and gardens. I want people to be able to come in, kick their shoes off, but then have fun, So it's not about how it looks. It's not about neatness, but it is about keeping like things together. And it's about once you get those like things together, making decisions to let things go, and then also deciding to maintain the zone that you created, okay? If you have reorganized your kitchen, for instance, what are you going to do to keep it that way? If you've reorganized your filing system, what is your document retention program? What is it? And I know that sounds like a really big word, but it's one piece of paper that says, I keep my medical bills for 3 years. I keep my financial documents. I keep you should always keep like the last statement of any of your investments, the last one. The other thing you always keep is like the cost basis of something. When you first buy a piece of stock, they'll give you a cost basis. But sometimes it happens years and years and years and years down the road. And then you go to cash that in, and they're like, what was the cost basis of this stock? I'm like, I don't know. My grandmother bought it for me 15 years ago. But you have to search for that information then. And you're paying your financial person to search for that information. So the cost basis of any financial things that you buy, that where it's going to earn income and you may sell it later, you want to have that cost basis there. Because that's what helps you realize like those are the capital gains and the losses that you have from that information. This is, let's see. Yep. Yeah. I think that what I would do is I would have a conversation with you about how important it is for you to do that hobby that you have. Maybe you're missing an opportunity to do a relaxing exercise that you really need. So I would look at that and say, do you want to pick this up again? If you love quilting, I'm just using this as an example. Yeah. It's a good general one. See, you know the answer though. Sometimes, but it's funny because, and I'm not picking on you at all. I'm just helping you to realize it's like you're almost the way you're saying it. It's like you're giving me the answer, so you're making it easy. I'm going to come with you and I'm going to be like, okay, and then I'm going to say, well, listen to the tone in your voice when you just said that. I have all these yarns. Yeah. But you have the one good memory from all the other painful pieces that you know what I mean? So it's putting it in perspective. Yeah. So here's an example of some sorting, okay? For instance, if I was sorting, this is office supplies, this is actually in a home. If I was sorting all of this into one pile to start with, I would put like all writing instruments together, okay? But then when I microzone it down, depending on use, if you're the kind of person, there's a lot of stuff there, so we had to microzone this down. But, you'd have colored pencils, highlighters, those are colored pencils, markers and highlighters, pencils, pens, then you microzone it down, okay? Now you can do the same thing with paper, but your zones are going to be different. But this just gives you an idea. These are some temporary containers that we used just while we were doing the sorting process. And then once we sorted it all, and had an idea of how much we had of one given item in a zone, that's how we would determine what type of container it went to. So only then did we go back and purchase containers. And this is the top of my husband's piano, and my I don't know if it's still there, actually. I said to the kids, I'm like, don't you want nicer containers? They're like, no, this is good. I'm like, okay. These are just fish bins that I sell on my website. These are great for sorting. And, you know, they're great for sorting paperwork. I grew up in the restaurant business. Did anybody grow up in the restaurant business? You did? Okay. Fish bins. My parents taught me to always sort into these plastic bins. So now I buy them in bulk and I sort into them because it allows you to label them. And as you're creating your piles of paper, you can just stack them inside of each other. You can put tops on them and store them. And my husband has built something we call the pile file system, and it's a standing top. Did you? Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Here, I'll show you that picture. So proud of this. I'm a cover girl. Yes, it is. Finally found it. Oh, I was wondering. I did wonder. So this is the filing system that we developed. I'm actually sitting on it. It's about 48 inches tall. Yeah, they're these. What happens is they're in. My husband built their shelves that are easily changeable, so you can decide if you need a deep bin or a shallow bin. So as you're sorting, you just sort into these bins, and then you can devise this pile file system to be whether you need, again, by use, because depending on how you're using it, if the thing you use most is a shallow, then you put in the shallow and the deep, and then you can kind of interchange them too. If you're, like a reading pile will typically, you're, start in a shallow because you're going to start reading, but then it ends up in a deep one because your reading stuff piles up, right? Catalogs. You can use this as this type of a system. We were talking about catalogs, so you put, again, your piles could be catalogs that came in, catalogs I've looked at, catalogs I want to order from. You can divide it that way. But again, it's based on use. And then, the catalogs that you've already looked at, then you've already looked at them once. So that's that. So those were, my kids wanted to do that into the fish bins, and then they wanted to keep it that way. So I think each one is, one plays the viola, the piano, the other plays the piano, so they're all just kind of there. Yeah, you know what was a good thing to do is to have a place for donate on each level of your house. I have a bin it literally is like a trash type, like a big bin with a plastic thing in it, and everybody in the family knows that when they're done with an item and they can't wear it anymore, if you can't throw it in your other sister's room, it goes into the bin. That's usually the first thing. It's like the older sister throws it into the younger sister's room, and why is this on my floor? Yeah. Well, see, you answered your own question, and you never do. So it depends on if making money from that stuff and or doing that type of a yard sale is something that energizes you. I'll tell you, I had somebody do a garage sale for me one time. I made more money than I'd ever make. Yeah. Because she knew how to price things. I didn't do it myself. She took, I don't know, 'cause I don't really do too much of that stuff. Oh my gosh. Do not, no, I will tell you now, I can actually answer that. Do not save anything for, yeah. I made $900 when the person did it for me. I don't know. Is there an IRS agent here? Technically, like anything you win from gambling and stuff is supposed to be, even when you buy sales tax, like things that require sales tax out of state, you're supposed to claim it on your tax return. So, don't tell anybody. Yeah. They take, if you go to Sports Center 481, that they have a box there for used sports equipment. but you don't use it, so you want to sell it. Oh, Freecycle. Have you ever heard of Freecycle? It's called freecycle.org. Write it down, because you can list anything that you have. You become a member. You can list what you have. If somebody else wants it, they'll come and pick it up, and they won't charge you. And if you want stuff, which I don't encourage, but if you want stuff, you can go there and also see something you want and pick it up for free. But it's called freecycle.org, and there's a different one for like the different areas. There's one for like Central New York, for Syracuse, and different areas, and so people just randomly list their stuff. Yeah, it is nice. Going to waste. If you don't want to make money on it, you want somebody just to come get it. I'll tell you, some of the metal, especially the metal, we've taken metal to the metal places before. They'll come and they'll take anything. I have guys that will come and get metal from any of the houses that we clean out or remove. So this is an example of some organizing that I did in my kitchen. My husband's remodeling. He decided to rip out our kitchen one day, and I'm getting new to me cabinets. He's a contractor that came out of somebody else's kitchen. We call them new to me, though. Like the hot and powdered beverages, I wanted to kind of keep that in a different, I didn't know what to call it, so like this temporary stick, this is where you should not let, something, if you're not sure. That's what I called it, hot and powdered beverages. When I finally put it in there, I might not call it that, but I had to call it something to fit it into a zone. He called this Medipack. It's really medicines. Like some of my most used medicines I keep right in the kitchen. So these are just bins that I'm sorting into to find out like what size do I need, what type of container. And these are my dishcloths, what I kind of divide into. I'm kind of particular about this, but like rags, dishcloths, and then dish towels. Because I don't like my kids using my dish towels to wipe up dog, like mud or something that came in on the. I like them to use rags for that, so I kind of separate that stuff out. But I can't have that expectation if I don't communicate to them where the rags are. And that's when I say communication is key, because it's done through labeling. And so we're doing the utensils, and I did seasonal kitchen utensils, serving utensils. What's he called? Yeah. But see, now I started labeling on my kitchen, my new to me kitchen cabinets, that where things were going to go too. So now I have those piles around, but then I also labeled it here, and I said, I think that my towels will fit here. Of course, they're not going to. After I did my sorting, I said, they're not going to fit in there. So I got to come up with a new way. So now this is literally my living room, because we're under construction. So square plastic containers, round plastic containers. Again, I'm redoing my kitchen, so I just divided my whole kitchen to the different categories. Same thing there. This is the pitchers and lids. I mean, this is an example of this type of a thing, only bigger. Here's what I do. I'm like trying to decide where the pitchers and lids go, and the kids are the ones that get the pitchers down because they make the Kool-Aid or the iced tea or whatever. So I went to my daughter and I said, what do you think? I said, I've got this container similar to this one, only bigger. I said, you think I should put like the pitchers and the lids in here so we can just take the container down and then the lids all stay together? She's going, yeah, Mom, I think that's a good idea. She bought in. She wants it. She feels like she owns it. I asked her opinion. So as I'm doing this whole kitchen thing, I'm going, and it's not like I have to do what she says. I mean, it's not like that, but it's like giving them kind of ownership, the communication with them, and having them be part of the decision making. With the plastic containers. This is literally the lids just for the pitchers. Yeah, but like the plastic containers, I will keep lids. I keep round containers and square containers separate, and then I keep the lids for the, like if I had a little thing like this, then I would put another, it could just be a box. The last thing I had in there, I think, was a cereal box that I cut down, and I put my lids in the cereal box that went in. It doesn't have to be, for me at least. And I would put my square lids in with my square containers, and my round lids in with my, I'd have a shelf for each one. So I did my old design. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in my new design. I got to figure it out. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, so it's almost 2 o'clock, so I want to make sure that we touched on a lot of the things that you guys wanted. There's a ton of information out there. There's a ton of products here that I brought just to kind of show you. Oh, here's that one. This is the one that I bought. I think I bought this for like $1. It's a set of 2 storage bins. It's like that one right there. It's nice to have some containers around to use. The most important thing I think that you can do is to label and write down as much as you possibly can. I want to show you this example of some labeling that I did. Here it is. When you're labeling something, this is the extreme label, the extreme labeling system. There's 2 things you should do when you label something. Number 1 is what is the contents. Number 2 is what is the mate's plan. Okay? This sits in my office. Okay? Well, so while I'm in my office, of course, I like take off my jacket or, whatever, and I need to have things that go to my bedroom, right? So I put this in there, so it's take to my bedroom. So, I could just label it take to my bedroom. But then what happens is I bring it into my bedroom, and I leave it there, and it only says take to my bedroom. And honest to God, I'm like, where does this belong? I can't remember. I forget. Like, was this up in there or there, So I literally put, belongs in my office on top of black shelf so that I remember that's where it goes back, and that's where its home is, because it's a transfer station. It goes to my bedroom. And then I'm supposed to do it. I'm the one that does it, and when I go buy it, okay, is when I do it. So this is the extreme labeling system, is what I call is, I wrote this down, it's what, like what gets done with it, where it belongs, who does it, when do you do it? Okay? There's nothing missing on this label at all. I can't, because I would do that. I would have these containers and be like, oh, bring downstairs. So I'd bring it downstairs. And I'd be like, oh, but it really belongs upstairs. But it says bring downstairs. So I'd be very confused. Sometimes working at 2 in the morning is very confusing. But, so this may seem like an extreme label, but I'll tell you, it's like some of these things that you can do on your labels is going to help you so much. And then ownership of it. Who is the person doing it? I have like a thing of, what I do is I have one of these sitting on a table, and I put my glasses and stuff in it, so it goes downstairs, and I would like bring downstairs. I'm the only one that ever brings it down. If I wanted somebody else to do it, I'd have to give them ownership of it. And I'd say, Aubrey, it's your job. Every Saturday, you have to bring these things down on Saturdays. So again, communication, ownership. This is something that, this is the type of thing that I would use in the bathroom. And I would put, again, I do something different now, and I'm always changing the way I do things. It's just one of the things I do. That's why I label everything. But I would use this and put all of my most used items in it, put it underneath my sink, and then pull it out, get ready for the day, and then put it back under my sink. And it keeps my counters clear. And it's like all it is my most used items, the things that I need to do every day. What else? Labeler. Does anybody own one of these? Awesome. Yeah, this is a Brother labeler. This is a Peach Touch. What's that one? It's really personal choice. Again, I can tell you the differences. This one I like because it's like that QWERTY, the QWERTY keyboard is, so it's like the thumb thing. It stands for QWERTY because it's QWERTY. But that's why it is. Did you know that? I kind of figured it out one day. I'm like, oh, that's why they call it that. So you can do this. They have the DeVeau labelers, which go A, C, D, E, F, G, F, and they do it in alphabetical order. These labels stick very well to anything you stick them to. Sure. What should it say? How about permanent markers? That's what's on here from last time. Dun-dun-dun-dun. So it prints out. Yes, DeVeau will not stick. But the nice thing is that kind of when they won't stick, it's not. You know what I do with these, and I'll tell you. So that's why I do the Brothers, because they stick. Now here's the one thing about this. Like I think it has one of those. The DeVeau labelers have crack and peel, so that's really nice. But they don't stick to everything. They don't stick to plastic. They don't stick to a lot of things. The Brother labels stick to everything, and they have this little thing here that you're supposed to just be able to put it in and pull it out. And I mean, I make so many labels that I'm just like, a peeling fool. I can just peel it even without doing that. But that allows you to do it. So they're a little harder to peel, but they stick better. Okay? Now, if you don't want to get them off, if you want to be able to get them off, this is what you use. Post-it tape. Okay? And then put the label on. There's my savior. That's what I learned. And if you need a piece of gum, it's right there for you. Getting it back off. And I've gone into clients, when I've gone into clients and they're like, oh, your labels work really well. Look, they peeled the wood off. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't a big deal when we put it on, but yeah, so I do this, and this is Post-it tape. It sticks to anything, except for maybe this chair because of it sticks. You can label anything you want. Yeah, you can write on it with marker. You can put it on that wall, and I've done it before in this wall. You put it on the wall and just use a Sharpie and write on it. So when I'm categorizing in like this one gentleman's office we were working on, I categorized and I put like all of his reference stuff here. So he had boxes of reference stuff, but I just put reference here, so that was his reference zone. And then he had a teaching zone, and then so we used these labels. You can use bigger labels if you want, but yeah. So these things are great for labeling, and that's why I use these bins too, because that's what ends up happening. It sticks right to the bin. Staples, yep. I'll give you the number if you really like this product, because I'll tell you you'll have a little trouble finding it. And it is, it's Post-it, and it's number 658. I know, me too. And yeah. Oh, this is let's see. This is a PT90. Yeah, because it's a home and hobby model, which is, it's easy to use. The other reason I like this one better is because the refills are less expensive. I think that they're the best ones in terms of pricing because it can get very expensive. I use things like this to label my laundry baskets. I literally just bought these at, and I just wrote on it blues. Like I have cold. Here's another one. All they are like things that my kids had, like they're like the styrofoam. Here, you can pass it around. No, they don't peel and stick, but see, I stuck the magnet to the back of it, and then I'll take this magnet and glue it to the inside of the netting on my laundry bin, and then I can just stick it on there, and so I know that, okay, my colds go in these bins, and my hots go in this bin. Joann Fabrics. I got them from Joann Fabrics, and I used Gorilla Glue. Yep. What's that? Well, the socks in terms of what? After they're washed? Yes. Yeah, you can if you want to. I would never because I have way too much laundry for that. I did try it one time, though. Yeah, you're always missing socks. Like what I do is I separate my socks. When they come out into categories, I literally have 6 categories of socks. I have our adult short white, our adult long white, our adult long colored or adult colored socks, and my kids have fuzzy socks and short socks. But I literally have these bins, with those types of socks like all sitting there, and I just, like, as they come out, I'll like match up what's there, and then throw into the kids' bins. Whatever's not matched just sits in these bins until the next wash. Yeah. Yeah, and then eventually I just like toss them all and start new. No, not at all. My room was a mess. Oh my gosh, yes. Yep. That actually, and it was always organized in my mind in the way that I would put stuff down on paper. I really thrive in chaos, I do, which is why I love what I do, because I do well with it. I'd be like, but it's different when it's your own stuff. It's so different. It's just that emotional attachment to things, But do you feel good about the stuff that you still let go, or would you trade?
No, I used to let go a lot more.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. There's always going to be something, There's always going to be something you let go of that you think, oh, I shouldn't have, or, oh, you'll find that one thing that you didn't let go of. You're like, oh, thank goodness I didn't get rid of it yet. You know, and you come back to it. Yeah. 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 It's an organized chaos. See, we have organized chaos sometimes too. It's taking over. Here's another example of some labeling that these little pins here. I mean, this is just random stuff that I kind of just figure out from a necessary thing, and I will take that. Where's my? Oh, these. I gotta show you these things too. You know, I'm colorful. These are great for labeling. I actually cut them down. Great for labeling cords. When you get that new piece of electronic equipment, you know, and it's like, because we've got iPods and iPads and, I mean, stuff everywhere, so you never know what goes to what. So I just take this and we wrap it around and get the longer. I cut this one off, I think, because I was looking for a shorter one. And you could even cut this little piece off if you want, but I'll just wrap it around the cord and then I know what it goes to. They're from, like, Wegmans. I'm going to order some, but they're from, like, Wegmans, like the things that you write your PLU numbers on in the bulk food section. They're twist ties, so don't take too many, but they're little twist ties with like a label on it. Yep, they use them in bulk food sections. Actually, my in-laws work at the Real Food Co-op, so they bring me some back too. So, yeah, these things are great. Has anybody ever seen these? The full sticky, full adhesives? Oh my God, these are the best. Eileen will tell you. They're very much like this, only it's a sticky, but only this little part is not sticky. So again, it's full adhesive. You know, so if you're trying to label something, you just put it on there, and then it's really going to stick instead of, I know, and then when you know, so it's great for temporary labeling, because then you could start this size container, you know, and then if you have to move to a bigger container, just pull the label off and go to a bigger container. Yes, yes. These are Post-its, yep. They're called full adhesive Post-its, and they come in different sizes. Staples has them, yeah. I think. Does Office Max? I can't remember. They have these, too. This is a full Yes, that's very true. Notes in your car or notes going out to the... Like, I always forget to get gas. Well, I try not to, but it gets I have been pulled over by the side of the road. My husband's like, I'm bringing you gas. You can use these notes. I like keep a smaller thing in my car, and then I'll just like post it right on and with a marker, and I'll leave myself a note, or put this on like my window, my door going out, and I'll be like, get gas, so I don't forget when I'm leaving, that I have to leave a few minutes early. These things are great. I love these. These are Post-its, but they're full adhesive. And the same thing with this. This is a smaller size, full adhesive. You know, they have different colors also. They have that tape in different colors also. So they have it in like green and orange. I know I haven't bought it yet, but I just found a use for it, so now I'm going to get some. Blue. They have different. I love these. These here, for like I'll make my list for the day if I'm trying to stay focused. This is a Post-it, but it's not a full adhesive Post-it. I don't do a list, but I'll do like if I have to remember to, I don't know, let's say pick my daughter up, I'll leave myself a note so I don't forget. You know, so it's good for notes, but I don't use Post-its. Like I will create a list. For instance, when I leave here, there's 2 things I need to do, and I didn't want to forget. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. There's 2 things that I wanted to remember to do, so I wrote them on the Post-it note. For some reason, the line Post-it note. you know, and this is what when I leave today, this is my today folder. You know, like I put the things that I am working on, like my handouts and all that went in there today. When I leave here, these are the 2 things I need to do, and they're actually in this folder. It's like the 2 things that I absolutely have to do today type thing. Not, you know what I mean, like somebody will yell if I don't do them. Yes, it does. It does. Sometimes you end up buying storage units and just storing stuff. I mean, I have people like that, you know, that... Yeah. Oh my gosh, not me. I don't like moving. Oh. Oh my gosh, that's very common. Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. How much of it do you have? A lot? Yeah. Right. Now, there's a couple of things you can do with that. What I usually try and tell people with things like that is if you look at it and it lifts your energy, or the opposite happens, if you look at it and it drains your energy and you think, oh my God, I still have that thing, then you want to let go of it. But if it still lifts your energy and it's not too much stuff, there's no reason you can't pack that stuff away and put it in your attic because you're not... If you don't have a place to put it up and you're not willing to let go of it, you know, I put it in the zone. It's like a memorabilia zone of things. You know, when we do the sorting process, we always have a memorabilia zone, and it's like the things that you're not, the keepsakes, things you're not willing to let go of, and you're allowed some of those things. I even have some of those things. I mean, I don't keep much because they still lift your energy to think of them. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like if it was something that like your Aunt Bertha had given you and you really didn't even want it and she stuck you with it and, you know, and every time you looked at it, it brought you down, then I would say, yeah, you need to let go of those things. But if it still lifts your energy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Sometimes you can do things, find places where people would want something like that and it might make you feel better. But if it's a picture of like your grandfather, but they might want the frame, you know. The other thing that you can do is take a picture of it, a high-quality photo of it, and then make sure you keep the photo, you know, electronically or something. And I think that's really important because when we do senior moves, same thing happens. They've got photo albums, and I've always wanted to like capture like photo albums and pictures, and they can't take them all. You know, so I've always wanted to like take pictures of them and put them in like an electronic file for them so that they have them. And so that's usually what I try and suggest to people if you have too many family photos so that you can still have it but not physically have it. Yeah, go ahead. Uh-huh.
And he was all on board with it. He just does not really have any organization.
Yeah. Bye, Eileen. Thank you. Yeah.
So we were all kind of like, because you don't want to have to deal with it someday.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah.
He's getting older, and he has not used it.
Oh. Yes.
So wondering, one, is it still good?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, you paid for it, right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Someone else uses it.
Yeah, if they're in the same area, just as long as. Bye. Thank you. Yeah, as long as they're not like out in, you know, Ithaca or something where it'd be a travel fee. Okay. Oh, that's what I do all the time. That's what I do mostly. Oh, yeah.
His biggest thing was one of his resistors, of course, committing to it.
Yeah.
And then he was concerned that, 3 hours and that he wouldn't
Yeah.
But he was saying, like, he'll say, well, you might guess you have to go through every piece of paper. And I'm like, that's the point. That's what you're there for.
Right. That's what we do.
You do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because it's just on top, on the floor.
Yeah, and we literally will take this, I'll take this color, probably pink, that'll be green or blue. And, you know, we literally would make piles, like on either a table or on the floor, so that, you know, make piles of what each thing is, and whatever name he gives it is the pile that I make. So I will ask him, you know, where does this belong, or not, it's really what zone does it fit into, what category does it fit into, you know, and so those are the questions that I would ask.
The other challenge is that he has a fiance that lives with him, is she has everything stored well together. She has an enormous amount of stuff.
Okay.
And she never gets rid of anything. It's all very neat, nice, and everything,
Yep.
but there's just a ton of stuff.
Right.
So he always uses her as an excuse not to, like, get organized himself.
Yeah.
So
See, a lot of times I come in and I'm therapy for the marriages, you know. It really is. It's a communication thing, and not to throw myself out there as a marriage therapist or anything, but I do get into those situations. Well, she does this and he does that. I mean, I've even gone as far as, like, when you go and look organizing a cellar, it's like, well, this is his side and this is your side. You know, you guys worry about your own sides, you know, so that you don't worry about each other's things. It's always easier to notice somebody else's clutter.
Yeah, we don't care about her stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's his point, is that it's always easier to notice somebody else's clutter. So when he says, oh, I don't have to deal with this, you know, she's got all this other stuff. It's like, well, you know, do we want to talk about her then, or do we want to talk about you now? You know, who do we want to work on? And that, again, it's a question I ask. Well, who do we want to work on? Do we want to work on her stuff or your stuff? So it kind of brings it back to him to say, well, we're not really talking about her now. We're talking about you, without actually saying that, you know. So it's just kind of, and if he wants to work on her stuff and say, is that really how you want to spend your time? You know, I mean, I just keep asking questions, and I try and get to the you know, to a point where they feel okay, you know what I mean, and it's okay. It's the, especially with seniors, it is the hardest thing for them to let somebody in. But if he's resistant, and then he changed his mind.
He just doesn't make it a priority.
Yeah.
And it would make...
Bye. Thank you.
It make his life easier, and that's why we did it.
But does he want it?
That's it.
Yeah. That's really the hard...
Sure he's willing to go to the effort.
You know, so the question would be to ask him why. You know, and try and every time he says the reason why, then just ask him another question. You know, like he said, well, 3 hours is a long time. Well, do you think maybe we can check with her to see if she would do 1 hour? Would you be willing to make an appointment then? You know, and just trying to get to the root of what it is that he is the stumbling block. You know, but typically what I do now actually is that I give gift certificates, and I don't actually charge people for them until they're used, because of those situations. You know, but that's why I asked, did you pay for it? Because I have to keep track of that, because of those situations. Like, everybody wants to buy somebody a gift certificate because they want them to get organized, but that person doesn't really want to get organized. So it'll be like, well, we'll give them a gift certificate, and if they call me and make an appointment, I will call you and you can send me a check. So it's kind of the gift certificate that gets, because I don't like taking people's money if I'm not going to provide them a service. Yeah. You know, and I had one family even ask for the money back. They said, well, I thought you were going to work with my father. And I said, but I can't make your father book. I can't make him book. I called him 10 times. I can't, I'm saying 10. It was more than 3. I know that because that's my limit. And he wouldn't book, and they got mad, and they wanted their money back. And I said, well, I'm not doing this again. Because I tried to explain to him at the time, you can't force somebody to do it. Which is, it's fine they didn't understand the process and and all of that, but but I don't want to be giving refunds back for gift certificates. Not many people ever do that, but I don't like to take people's money if it's not. Well, yeah. They don't. Look, that happens all the time, and they don't use them. Right. Yeah. But I think, buying a gift certificate, because a professional organizer is something that's a little bit still of an anomaly, they, I think that they just thought, that I would probably just go in there and tell him, like they see the TV shows and think that's what it's really like. They don't realize that it's just little old me saying, do you really like this? Do you want to keep it? But I can be very forceful, but in a very nice way. I just kind of, well, what do you think? And even like when the same thing, I think you answered your own question, like, do you see? And she kind of saw that she was coming up with her own answers, but, it's like, you still don't want to hear what you don't want to hear. It doesn't matter. Like my husband says, you never ask a question you don't want to hear the answer to. It's like, so I try not to ask those questions, but yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
And then I'm like, this is great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh. Oh, my gosh. I thought those were supposed to always work. Oh. Oh, did you come in late? Oh, yes. I don't even notice. I don't like... But thank you so much. I'm glad you came. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.